we ran the ugliest back fence in Australia contest on Facebook. And we said to everyone, look, if you've got a paling fence, and we obviously geo-targeted towards the older suburbs, if you've got an old paling fence that's falling down, you could win an aluminium fence makeover, which is his product. If you just take a photo of your crappy fence and post it to our Facebook page. Guess what? He got 6 months worth of leads in 3 days. We spent $514, I think it was, on Facebook, and we had to close down after 3 days.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to episode 180. My next guest, John Dwyer, otherwise known as JD, is one of the OGs of direct response marketing. In other words, marketing that gets results. He's the founder of the Institute of Wow. He has made global headlines by convincing Jerry Seinfeld to be the face of banking, like a big banking campaign here in Australia. And you'll hear about that. Quite amazing how he made that happen. And then he's created the iconic free holidays or vacation with a home loan offer, which actually broke industry records, generating billions in new loans. He has worked with a smorgasbord of amazing clients like News Limited, 7-Eleven, Westfield, Disney, KFC, BP, and more. Some of those are big, huge, massive brands in Australia. If you're after marketing strategies that absolutely cut through the noise, JD's your guy. He's going to blow you away, you guys. And if you're an Aussie and you're listening to this, you're going to absolutely love some of his references to old past famous marketing campaigns and some marketing experts as well that you might be familiar with. Get ready, because JD is literally, and I mean it, literally going to fire hose you with so many valuable ideas. It's going to make your head absolutely spin with possibilities for your business. This guy is literally one of the most creative, ideas-driven men I have ever met, and he has the history and track record to prove it as well. So let's welcome him on the show. JD, I've been following your work. I've heard your stuff for a long time. I'm really excited you're on this show. We're going to have a good time. How are you?
Not too bad at all. And it's interesting you say you've been following my stuff and you're actually excited for me to be on that shit. Normally it's the opposite. People say, I've been following you. I do not want to talk to you.
No, on the contrary, I think you're the most down-to-earth, say it as it is guy that's out there. Finally, it's a breath of fresh air. So thank you. All right, we're going to crack into it. So I want to know straight away, what are a few tangible takeaways or tips for growing a business smarter without all the hustle and grind and pulling your hair out? What are some smart tips we can use?
Yeah, look, yeah, and all jokes aside, all sarcasm aside, I'm probably not the guy to ask that, because I've made 101 mistakes on growing our business. But what I found, I guess, in the last 10 years, when we got a little bit smarter because of a few more wrinkles, was that, basically try and make sure that you are going to, firstly, either employ or hang around people who say why not people who say why. Okay, and the mistake I made in my early career was that I hung around accountants and operational people, and every time I come up with a crazy new idea, and my business in those days was called the Dynamic Ideas Company. Okay, the acronym Dynamic Ideas Company was not good, but DIC, but I didn't think about that at the time, did I? Because I'm an idiot, yeah. But throughout those times, there was lots and lots of ideas. Now, whether it be scratch bingos for News Limited's papers or promotions that we put together for, McDonald's, we're a direct response company, so therefore it's all that sort of stuff. I hung around, people who are operationally minded. They were left-brained, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they're traditionally not risk takers. So they go, why would you do that? Why would you do this? And then, luckily, in my 30s, I decided to hang around crazy people, and they were much more dangerous, of course, because they would take risks, but they say, why not, And you might say back in that era, it was risky. And today it's not. The beautiful thing about the industry that we're in now, the advertising marketing industry, is you can test and fix within, 24, 48 hours, and you know all about that because of the nature of your business. So,
yeah.
My view would be test and fix, okay? Hang around, people who are, why not? Why not do that? Why not? And as long as they're not completely, silly ideas, but, hang around people who will actually work with you in terms of being a little bit nutty, and then test and fix. And the beautiful part about what you do, Heather, is that you see it every day of the week, and that is you can test on social media, 10 things at a time, and you'll know whether they're going to fire within a few days.
And do you know what I love about it too? Is I always say to somebody, all right, so let's come up with some ideas. Now go crazier. What's a really crazy, crazy idea that you think, no way would that work?
Yeah.
And like 50% of the time, it's that crazy one that works. So I love that you're saying that.
Well, let me tell you something. This came out of about 6 months ago. This guy came to one of my Song and Dance shows a few years ago. I say Song and Dance as in a seminar. We don't do so many seminars now. It's like there's a podcast or web. But anyway, he contacts me. He said, look, I saw your stupid stuff a few years ago with direct response. And he said, I've got an aluminium fence business. And he said, I got it from my father who started it in the 1800s. And he said, I'm in Gosford, New South Wales, and I put out letterbox drops to all the 30-year-old homes because they're going to need an aluminium fence because their paling fence is falling down. And he said, I put, Facebook on and nothing's working. So I said, well, let me have a look at your leaflets and let me have a look at your Facebook ads. And of course, the Facebook ads were targeted towards older suburbs that had paling fences, right? And he had a picture of an aluminium fence. And then he had a boring story about that he got the business from his dad. He started in 1842 and all the stuff that nobody cares about. And I said, no, it's not going to work because you're concentrating on features, the aluminium fence, not the benefits. And so he said, I mean, we all know what an aluminium fence looks like. So I said, well, do you want to get out of the way? We'll just do it for you, which he did. So we ran the ugliest back fence in Australia contest on Facebook. And we said to everyone, look, if you've got a paling fence, and we obviously geo-targeted towards the older suburbs, if you've got an old paling fence that's falling down, you could win an aluminium fence makeover, which is his product, if you just take a photo of your crappy fence and post it to our Facebook page. Guess what? He got 6 months worth of leads in 3 days. We spent $514, I think it was, on Facebook, and we had to close down after 3 days. He couldn't keep it up because not only were they warm leads, they were red hot. They took a photo of their crappy fence and gave it to him. Wow. And then that sort of was something I thought, hang on, let's have a look at that for other people. So we had a dentist say, listen, I want to sell more Invisalign braces for children. And he said parents really will get braces for their children where they'll put it off for themselves. So we did the same thing. We now call it the Facebook contest for it. And I've come from a sweepstakes contest background, doing all the bingos for newspapers and stuff, so it sort of was second nature to me. So now pretty much with all of our clients, they don't do any other Facebook ad other than the Facebook contest for me. And all it is that they give away their product or service as a prize, whether it's lawn mowing or win a month's worth of lawn mowing. Someone in an apartment is not going to enter that contest. Obviously, someone's going to enter that contest who is a real prospect. We're getting 1,000 leads a week for 32 cents. A lead.
It's brilliant.
We're talking crazy. And so this guy, particular guy with, the dentist, I mean, basically we targeted at parents with children who might have crooked teeth. So he spent $30 a day. So over a week, that's $210 on Facebook. He got just under 1,000 leads in 1 week. Okay. And he said his girl can't ring all of them, because basically the girl then rings up and says, look, you didn't win the Invisalign braces, but guess what? You obviously got a child with crooked teeth. We've got a special deal this week that if you get in by Friday, we'll give you this special deal, whatever that might be. And she could only get to 100 of them and had a 9% conversion rate. And he said, what am I going to do? I said, well, we'll put the robots on. So we just put our AI genie, we call her, and she rang the rest of the 900. She got 16% conversion compared to his 9%.
Whoa. So this whole test and fix concept is really, really smart. Like, how do you come up with these ideas when you're sitting in front of a client or a business? Like, where does this come from when you're like, I know this is going to work. Let's test this.
Mainly alcohol.
Yeah, that is the right answer.
Yeah. Oh, no, look, and I've been asked a few times, and I'm certainly not Walt Disney, but I've been asked a few times, but where does this creativity come from? And look, and I'm being serious for a second. I think it is an X factor. It's like, I'm not comparing myself to, what Robin Williams, but people would say, where does Jim Carrey and Robin Williams, I mean, they're once in 100 years. I'm certainly not once in 100 years. But the thing is that those freaks come along, once in 100 years. And I'm not on that platform. But the thing is that I've tried to teach, I've put people on and tried to teach them this creativity. And unfortunately, it's just part of the DNA. I mean, you've either got it or not. But what you can do is that you can take this stuff and create a formula and a system about it and say, what I did. And people that join my stuff, they get a big book. And therefore, they go through this and they just pinch anything out of that book of 300 pages of ideas that have worked. And so therefore, basically, whilst they will never come up with the idea, I just give them the ideas, and of course, they pay a few dollars for it. I've got to tell you a classic here.
Tell me.
We lived in a little country town called Gloucester in the Hunter Valley. And Gail comes home from picking the kids up from school this day, because we had young kids at the time, and she said, she said the girl in town that runs the hairdressing salon, the only hairdressing salon in town, this was like Mayberry. It's a main street with one butcher, one baker. And she's had the hair salon for 30 years and never a competitor. And a lady came to town and opened up a hair salon opposite and got all the men to swap across because she was charging $50 for a man's haircut at the time, and the shop across the road said $10. And so every man in town, they don't care, particularly country towns, they'll get a haircut at the butcher. So all the men went across the road to the lady that was charging $10. And Kimberly, this girl's name was, and she said, "Can you ask John, has JD got any of that wow shit that he could possibly give me? I mean, what do we do? Do we go to $9? So Gail comes home with yet another freebie. Thanks, Gail. And I said, okay, let me think about it. So anyway, 2 days later, she got pretty much all the men back within a week because we put a sandwich board outside her salon that was opposite the one that was stealing the men. And the sandwich board just said, "We fix $10 haircuts."
Interesting.
So,
that's so smart.
So there was no need to have a Happy Meal toy, although there normally is, to take people's eyes off the price. But the thing is that in her instance, she didn't need that. She just needed to scare the men that for $10, you're going to look like an
idiot.
Idiot.
Yeah, it's all about what you pay for. Get what you pay for. Now, for those of you watching with the video, you would have seen John hold up, or JD hold up, his amazing book. This book that he just held up. It's like amazing swipe file book. I don't want to just skip over that. What is this book that you held up? Of all your examples, how do people get that?
I blame Ken and Karen for it because Heather and myself have very good friends. Ken and Karen. And when I hit the seminar circuit 10 years ago and had no idea what I was doing, I was a complete moron. I had come from the corporate world where you're inside boardrooms. And then all of a sudden I was in front of small business owners who thought KPI was a new chicken chain. So I had no clue. And they wouldn't even laugh at my jokes, the small business people. Shame on them. And Karen and Ken come up to me and they said, "Look, you're on the seminar, so you've got to write a book." And I went, "I'm not writing a book." They said, "Well, all this stuff that you've done over the years, write a book." I said, "Nobody cares about that." They said, "They do. You're now talking to small business owners." So they forced me to write this. And Ken Wood, forced me to write that within a week. So anyway, I dictaphoned it. We gave it to someone to put all together. And it's called the Avalanche Leads Formula because that's what I do. And the funny part about it, this was 10 years ago, the funny part about it was that I did a webinar about 6 months ago. In the chat box, a guy comes up and says, "Oh, JD, I got your book all these years ago, and chapter 5 or 6, whatever it was, has made a huge difference to my business life." And that night in bed, Gail says to me, "What are you doing?" "I'm reading the book. I've never read it." And so therefore, "What are you doing?" So "I'm reading chapter 6. Pretty good stuff." Because what I had done, I dictaphoned it. I gave it to the people to put together. I got proofread. I've never read it. But chapter 6 is very good. So anyway, Woody then says to me, "Well, you've written one book, you got to do another one." I said, "Oh, come on, stop. This is ridiculous." So I thought to myself, I'm going to do another one, and I'm supposedly the Institute of Wow, then I better make it a big one. So that's why this is the size of a tabloid newspaper.
It's huge, by the way, you guys. It's massive. It looks
gold print, it's a leather badge, $420 a book to print, by the way. So it's not cheap. Where that thing, you can print for $5. So what we did is we held this over as a special plus to anyone who joined the coaching program at the time. These days it's all on digital. We digitized it these days. The funny part is that when I was doing it from stage and said, "Look, if you join my $2,000 a month coaching program, whatever it might be, you will go home with the book." I had to get them to sign a form just as a piss take. I said, "You have to sign a form because if you're in bed reading this and you go to sleep, you could break a rib. I do not want you to do it," because it is pretty heavy. It's pretty
huge. Heavy. Oh, that's
cool. By the way, I didn't actually. What's in here is 10, 15 years worth of direct response marketing concept. The ones that didn't work, I didn't put in. So therefore, throughout this, whether it's the puppy dog sale or whether it happens to be providing an incentive to get people to buy your product, or whether it's giving $1 million prize away, but you only paid 20 grand to the insurance company, all that sort of stuff is in here. And everyone who's got it actually says to me, "Look, it's just basically the coffee table book they refer to when they need a new idea."
Yeah, I can see that. And guys, we'll recap on all this where you can pick up your own versions of all this coming up soon. So you've said something else interesting recently, and that is sort of stay in the laneway of your genius, because you said you have that X factor of what you do. I think that's really, really important right now, because there's so many people going, "Oh, I need this, and I need that, and I need to be this, and I need to be that." What is your take on that? Literally going, "Oh yeah, I need to learn this, and then I need to learn that, and then I need to learn that." What should we do if we want to get good leads in our business?
Look, I suffer from what you just said, to be honest with you. And again, I'll keep the humour and sarcasm low on this point, because probably one of my downsides is that,
Learning.
there's too many balls in the air. If you saw what's on my desk at the moment, yellow sticker pad, there's notes everywhere. I'm a typical creative, so therefore they are dangerous to be around, but they're normally good fun, but they're dangerous to be around unless you can channel them into one thing. And fortunately, in the last 10 years, courtesy of just, I guess, get a few more wrinkles, you live and learn. I make sure that, we don't go absolutely crazy with too many things. But the world that we live in, being the digital world and the AI world now, you can actually have your finger in at least a few pies, because GPT can help you really master a lot of things a lot quicker than what we used to. I'll give an example.
Give me an example.
It was 3 weeks ago. You know what I'd like you to say, Heather? No, we don't want any examples. We don't want any examples.
No, I don't, because I've already had enough.
In fact, JD, it's getting late. We've got to close up now. You've been a very interesting.
We need more examples, because this is what you're great at. So keep going.
Okay, so therefore, we developed a product about. We started 18 months ago, and it took longer than what we thought to get up. And 18 months ago, AI receptionists were, people's brains would explode. Now it's basically every man and his dog's got an AI receptionist. We got into it, and because we're not BHP, it took us a little while to build it, and so therefore we partnered up with a San Francisco company that would give us the robots. And then what we put together is a thing called AIGenienow.com. And we're making a few dollars at it, but nothing like what we thought we would, because we took too long to get to market, okay? And I wasn't practicing what I preach, and that is perfection is the enemy of good, okay? We had it good enough 6 months in, but we went for another 7, 8, 9 months, and all of a sudden AI receptionists became a commodity. We were no longer the fancy guy on the block. And so I thought to myself, shit, okay, well, we've wasted all that time and money on that, and we don't have the private island yet, so therefore what do we do with all of that knowledge? And I thought, hang on. Let's go outbound. So what we would do is that we'd charge $297 a month for a robot to answer your phone. Normally tradies and restaurants and hairdressers are the people who can't answer their phone. So they're under a sink if they're a plumber, or they're putting a solar. This would answer their phone and, of course, text the message to them, and the game. But we took too long to get to market. So I thought to myself, okay, if it's a commodity now whereby what we were selling for $397 a month is now $97 a month with other people who are out there, because there's a gazillion of them, what about outbound? Because, we can ring 1,000 people within an hour, with any one of these robots, right? And so the concept that we've come up with, which we're launching next week, so I'll let you know whether or not the following week I have a private island, and that is the real estate industry. We have a lot of real estate agents come to us over time and say, look, we want more appraisals, because they get 10 appraisals, and when they get 10 appraisals, 2, 3 or 4 turn into a listing. But it's all about appraisals. And so therefore I've had real estate agents say to me over time, look, need more appraisals. What idea have you got? I said, okay, out of every 10 appraisals, how many listings do you get? 3. Well, why don't you just give out 1 million appraisals? They go, what? I said, well, instead of putting an ugly face on a leaflet and putting in their letterbox saying, please, would you like us to give you a valuation, or likewise online, then just give it to them. And they said, how do we do that? So we got a company overseas to scrape all of the postcodes, addresses, and the valuations. Okay, it's not RP data, but it's something like that. And what we did is gave to the real estate agents checks, Commonwealth Bank looking checks, and had $1.4 million on it for house number 2, $1.3 million for house number 3. And they were to deliver it into the letterbox, so that when people got home that night, they didn't have a leaflet saying, would you like us to value it? We valued their home. Their heads have exploded because they've just got a check in front of them for $1.4 million. They never, 80% of Australians have no idea what they're sitting on. That's the statistics. As of yesterday, I checked it again yesterday. 80% of people have no idea. So the results from this with the agents that we gave it to were outstanding. We're talking like, in a week, 19 appraisals, and some of them were getting 6 or 7 of those turn into a listing within the week. We're talking like stupid record. So I'm thinking, well, that's good. Retirement package, the real estate agents will just think I'm JC, and I'll have a private island within maybe a month. Guess what? What we found is that real estate agents are inherently lazy. They didn't want to walk the streets or get Airtasker to walk the streets for them to put number 2's valuation check in number 2's letterbox, number 3's in, because it had to go into their letterbox, okay?
Yeah, the right one.
Yeah. They were used to putting out a leaflet to 10,000 homes, and that was it.
Generic.
So last week I thought to myself, hang on, this is crazy. Came across lazy real estate agents, and so why don't we just take the laziness away from them? We'll get a robot to ring up 1,000 homes every hour, and we would tell them what their home's worth. So therefore, the robot now will ring up and basically say, oh, Heather, you are the owner of 26 Smith Street, Smithville. We're just doing a research survey to find out what percentage of Australians know what they're sitting on. Would you like to know what you're sitting on? 9 out of 10, I can assure you, will say yes.
Say, yeah, tell me, yeah.
And you go 1.42 million, and they go, what? And say, well, listen, if you like, what we can do is actually give you a written confirmation of that. We have an association with a local trusted real estate agent who can come in and give you a listing. So basically, we've taken something that was an abject failure because they wouldn't let Vox drop the checks and turn it into something now that all we will do is package 10 appraisals together and give it to them for whatever we charge. The reason I say that is because, again, don't be too quick to throw an idea out if it doesn't work. See if you can actually maybe trick it up a little bit and do it differently.
Very good. And speaking of ideas, do you think AI is going to hurt creativity or help it?
I think help it. Yeah, I think help it. I mean, I've got a little bit lazy because it does most of my copywriting for me now. I just have to keep on telling you, no long hyphens. I do not want the long hyphen. That'll be.
Oh, I know, because that's the dead giveaway. I know you're like, stop with the long hyphens, the M dash or whatever they call it. So, but with the ideas, because you are definitely an ideas guy, do you think if somebody is not inherently creative, do you think they'll still get good ideas from AI?
Not all the time. The odd occasion, well, but yeah, what I found is that it's an enhancement tool, not necessarily the answer. And I always say that at the end of the day, if I've got a client who gives me a good brief, there's a chance I'll have an answer for him pretty quickly. Now, whether that's an hour or a day or a week, but certainly more quickly than if I have to interrogate him, Sharon Stone style, and say, look, I need to get information out of you. I don't know why that comes up in my head all the time. But the thing is that, most of the briefs I get are on the back of a bloody toilet paper. I mean, they're ridiculous. I mean, I've had one recently. The guy came on board last week. He's about 104. And just like pulling nails. It really is trying to, I'm saying to him, give me the benefits of your product. Don't give me the features, give me the benefits of it. And it's just a nightmare.
Probably couldn't.
No, well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because it's sort of like on a Zoom call like this, I'll show you what he does. His head is there. That's all right.
Bottom of the screen.
That's all right. So look, I think it's largely as good as the prompt. And what I found is that if I go in there and, like, for example, with this idea that we have for the real estate agencies, which I think it's got half a chance, I will give it all of the potential problems. When I was the marketing guy at Woolworths 1,000 years ago, they put me through a course which I hated, but it was called PPA, Potential Problem Analysis. And what that would say is that if you're opening up a shopping centre, which I was at the time in Dubbo, New South Wales, what if it rains? And I go, okay, well, we'll do this, that, and the other. What if there's an earthquake? And I go, oh, come on, how far do you want to push the potential problems? But it taught me to make sure that no matter what crazy idea you came up with, have a look at what the potential problems are. And when I look at ChatGPT, I will say to it, look, this is the idea, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it. Can you give me the potential problems? That's where it's really good. But it won't come up with the idea.
See, that's what's interesting. I just wanted to talk to you about that for a second because you have this extreme, wealth of knowledge and wisdom that many people who don't use AI don't have. And it is a shit in, shit out, right? So It's interesting you say that. It's a good tool, but it's only as good as you know what to tell it to do. Yeah, for sure.
And it's pretty much like a doctor. If you go to the doctor and someone's sick, then of course he's not going to be able to prescribe something. But if you say, I've got a sore knee, he'll go, oh, you got gout.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to talk to you about your business. What does it do? Just answer me, like casually. What does your business do? Who do you help? What's happening?
Look, pretty much small to medium-sized businesses. I mean, I used to be in the corporate world, so I was doing all of these ideas, the scratch bingos for Murdoch's newspapers and Channel 9 we had as a client, and so therefore I was dreaming up ideas for them to get more viewers. Like on that, I had a talk only last week, and it was a luncheon, so it was alcoholic infused. Uh-oh. And this guy is with one of the big TV stations, like a Channel 9, Channel 7, or Channel 10, right? And he said, we're dying. I said, I know you are, because you are dickheads. You're suffering from something worse than COVID. It's called dickheaditis, okay? And I said, look, I haven't watched free-to-air TV for probably a couple of years, and I'm joking. I mean, the odd occasion you might go. And I said, you guys are spending money on the block and all the lifestyle shows because, you think that will drag them across, and with, reasonable success. But overall, you're losing people like crazy, right? And he said, okay, smart ass, so what's the fix? I said, mate, really, really easy. The fix for you guys is to value add. okay? And I know that you'll say, okay, well, tell me something I don't know. I said, no, Happy Meal toy. I mean, at the end of the day, we had 6 under 12 at one stage, and we spent on Happy Meals throughout that period. I added it up, it was $7.8 billion. And the kids never ate the hamburger. It was all about the toy.
Of course it was. Yeah.
So if you ask anyone what a Happy Meal costs, a parent or grandparent, they probably won't tell you, or they won't get any near it, because McDonald's took our eyes off the price. And I said to him, okay, so therefore, if you don't have a wow factor, and most people don't, then we have to come up with what we call an artificial wow factor. In other words, basically a direct response gift or reward of some sort that will actually take their eyes off the price. And having done all the bingos over the years, I know what cash prizes do. I mean, at the end of the day, people said to me, what would you give away as a prize if it's not a product or service on Facebook? Cash, 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 and more cash. Now, most people don't want to give that away because $50,000 costs them $50,000, okay? Whereas if they give away travel products or whatever, they can do deals, right? And if you give away cash, then just go to, we deal with Lloyd's of London, and we can get $1 million for around about 22 grand, 23 grand. I can get $500,000 for about 10, 11 grand, okay? So we do all the big win $1 million sweepstakes and stuff. And what happens is people buy your product or service because they've got the chance to win $1 million. And then you have a preliminary draw at the end of the month or 2 months that you run it. And that person then is invited to go online with a chocolate wheel. And on that chocolate wheel's got 100 numbers, and they choose one number. So number 62, let's say. They spin the wheel. If that comes up, they win the $1 million. If it doesn't, then they win a motor car or they win a holiday or something else. Yep. So therefore, you've got the headline, the Elvis found headline of your chance to win $1 million. And he goes, yeah, go on. He got a bit interested. I said, okay. He said, but we've got to distribute game cards all around Australia, just like you used to do with bingo cards. I said, no, you don't. Everyone's got a game card in their wallet. And he said, what do you mean? I said, a driver's license. And if you pull out your driver's license, there's a 9-digit number on the. So all you would do is at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, right throughout the evening, so they've got to stick with you all night, you actually flash numbers on the screen. And those numbers, if they correspond with your driver's license, and you end up marking off all of your driver's license numbers that night, you're in the draw to win $1 million. His jaw just dropped. His jaw dropped. He went, fuck me. He said, that is mind-boggling. I said, yeah, I know. And he said, how do you make money out of it? I said, I can't. There's no game card. When I used to make money out of bingo, I would charge them per 1,000 for the scratch bingo cards. We'd produce all the bingo cards. Yeah. But when you have a fertile brain like this shit and you give them a free idea like that, nobody's going to pay a concept fee. Nobody's going to pay a concept. They should. But that would be an absolute game changer for this TV network. And you know what? I gave it to a radio station network about a month ago. A mate of mine runs a radio station network here in Australia. And his brain exploded. I haven't seen it yet. Come on. So it's maybe I'm feeding strawberries to pigs.
No, look, your brain is something else. I know you've been told this probably a zillion times over, but so people work with you. What do they get? Like, they get these books and these packs, and do they get to talk to you? How does it work?
Yeah, no, I live on a private island, and basically I'm so wealthy I just spit on people. That's what I do. Okay, I don't. No, I haven't got the private island yet, courtesy of having 6.
I know, you're working on it. You're working on it. It might be next week if this real estate thing comes up.
Yeah, what we do now, Heather, I mean, we still have the private consultancy where, people pay me $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a month, depending upon what they want. And, we don't have any long lock-in period. Those days, I think, are numbered because, a lot of people, particularly if they're in the small to medium-sized business, they want the roadmap. Okay, so we have a program which is a couple of month program where I think we charge them somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 a month, depending upon what sort of business they own and how hard I've got to work. And they come out the back of that 2-month program with a full marketing plan. So they get a full marketing plan for their business, what they should be doing online, what they might like to consider even in this day and age offline. They get the ideas of basically the sort of incentives to use to boost their product and boost their sales. I mean, real estate agents, for example, one came on yesterday. And the first thing I said to him, I said, look, I'll provide you with a marketing plan and so forth over this next month. I said, but if you really want to get more appraisals tomorrow, aside from the experiment happening with the robots next week, at the moment, all you got to do is put an ad on Facebook and say, listen, how would you like to win the sale of your home with no commission? In other words, if you're thinking about selling in the next 12 months, I will give you the chance to win me selling your home, no commission. So you won't pay the 30 or 40 or 50 grand. who do you think that's going to attract to enter that contest? People who think about selling that.
Absolutely. It's calling straight out to the target market in a
Mm.
creative way.
So, he walks away like day one with what I think would be a game changer idea for him. But what we do is that I thought, well, what's the easiest way for me to make more money instead of just, consulting? And in the consulting thing, and I know this sounds very rude, if they're a small butcher or baker or candlestick maker, I am feeding strawberries to pigs. They're just not going to be able to do this stuff. So what we thought we'd do, because they don't implement, is that we'd package my IP into concepts. So therefore what we do is package it into consultancy concepts where they get, a Zoom call with me like this, maybe twice a month, and they get a marketing plan. Okay. And that's all I can done within 2 months. So therefore I walk away with a nice hit and they walk away with a marketing plan that might do them forever, which might be a complete change for their business. And the other things we package are the $1 million draw prize promotions. We have a fuel discount promotion, which mirrors the Woolworths one. This one is the biggie. When I had a client called the Greater Building Society here in Australia, I got Seinfeld to do their ads, okay? And I milked the daylights out of that sense. We kicked off with a program. Basically, they were a challenger brand, and that means that if you are not the Coca-Cola of your industry, then you're a challenger brand, okay? And the Greater Building Society is the 250th biggest business in Australia, but they're not the Commonwealth Bank or Westpac.
Yeah.
And so I came on board. Now, these guys were paying me $35K a month, so therefore they deserved as much of my time as they could get. But they said to me, listen, okay, we're a challenger brand, so what does that mean we need to do? I said, well, don't market your home loans on price. Because if you're 6.2%, the Commonwealth Bank will be 6.1% tomorrow. It'd be like a hardware store opposite Bunnings marketing on price. I mean, that's just stupid. And these bankers, who are all pretty boring, said to me, well, what do we do? And I said, look, I'm doing some Kerry Ann commercials on Channel 9 at the moment for a travel company. They give you discount prices. Why don't you stop your 1% honeymoon rate, which is what every does for the first year?
Right.
You go to the travel company and they'll give you a 10 grand holiday for 5. So that's what we did. We came on TV and social media and said, swap from the banks, bring your home loan across to us and you get a free holiday.
Interesting.
$15 billion worth of extra loans in the first 3 years. We're talking, and this idiot, instead of charging a percentage of the increase in loans, charged a consultancy fee. I'm a moron. So about 3 or 4 years into it, they said, look, we've scooped up all the low-lying fruit, which happens to be tradies, because building societies and credit unions tend to attract the working class. What do we do to get to white collars, right? And I said, okay, leave it with me. And so a mate of mine was doing Billy Connolly commercials for ING at the time. And I said to him, how did you get him? And he told me, wherever he is in the world, we just fly over and do TV commercials wherever he is and give him $1 million. So I did the same thing with Seinfeld. It took me a little while to get to him, but eventually what we did is we hooked him up for 3 years, where Seinfeld came on TV and said, get a home loan, get a free holiday. It went through the stratosphere. It just went.
I remember those, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that was you.
Yeah, and that was big time. And of course, I've milked the crap out of that for the last 10 years. And I'm sure Jerry's milking the crap out of the fact that he worked with me as well.
Well, why not?
But what came from that is about 6 months before COVID, these guys rang me up, and they're a travel company, and they said, listen, we've got access to unsold rooms around the world, including Australia. These hotels are happy to give up their rooms for free because they hope that whoever stays there will spend money on food and beverage. So it's a win-win.
Of course.
Okay? Now, I've seen every travel scam, so I turned it upside down and made sure that there was no timeshare, commitments or any of that rubbish. And there wasn't. All it was that outside of school vacations, they've got 30% of their rooms vacant. They're happy to give them up and hoping that whoever stays there will have a massage or buy food and beverage. So this is the big one. We've been marketing this now. Obviously, we took 2 years off with COVID, but we've been marketing this where we say to people, listen, this voucher is worth $1,000. When you give it to someone because they buy your lawn mowing service or they buy the refrigerator or they buy your consultancy service, whatever it might be, you give this to them worth $1,000. They can go for a 3-night holiday anywhere in Australia or around the world. Bali is 7 nights, by the way, and I think Fiji is 5 nights.
Amazing.
And they buy this off us for less than $50. So therefore, they get $1,000 voucher for $50, and that's what we do these days.
What is this called? What is this program called?
This is called funescapes.com.au. So if you go to funescapes.com.au, you'll see all about it.
So they can essentially sign up and get these vouchers and work with you on that to give to their clients, signing bonuses, wherever they want to use them.
But what we do, Heather, we package it all together. So we give them the links to the Facebook ads and the Facebook landing pages, all that sort of stuff. So they don't have to think about it. Basically, it's a plug and play.
Brilliant.
And that's where our mentality went, because we realised that a lot of the other stuff that we gave them, it sounds like I'm being silly here, but it was too sophisticated for them to implement. So what we've done now is we actually do everything for them so that they just buy the plug and play.
Oh, Smart though, and you know that because, like what you said before, most people just don't have time. They don't know how to do it. They have a bit too big of a learning curve.
Yeah.
Where do they go to learn how to work with you? You said the Wow Institute.
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, just the Institute of Wow.com. So therefore, and it's not an AU because we're of a huge conglomerate like Coca-Cola. So it's just a .com.
Yeah.
So it's the Institute of Wow.com. Yeah.
And there are options there to actually have conversations with you. Yeah.
Yeah, look, if they want to have a conversation with me, just give me an email. I'm certainly happy to do that. So just John at the Institute of Wow.com. So if you, and by the way, this in America, because you're an American, so you understand this, we refer to this as holidays here, but of course we've got the same thing happening in America. So if they're watching this in America, just go to vacationsincentive.com.
Okay.
So that's vacations, plural, vacationsincentive.com, and you'll see how it works there. I'll give you I'll show you how well this works as a Happy Meal toy, because that's all
Yeah,
it is.
please do.
It's an
Yeah.
adult Happy Meal toy. We have a guy down at Ocean Grove in Victoria, Australia, and he's sitting opposite a vacant block of land a few years ago when he set up his hardware store. It's a home hardware store. It's a part of a chain. And he thought, well, this is terrific. There's a lot of new homes going up around the area. And guess what? That vacant block of land got bought by Bunnings, and they threw up a Bunnings hardware store opposite his little hardware store. So that'd be like having a little soft drink company and Coca-Cola set up across the road, right?
Oh
So
boy.
he gets scared shitless, and he rings us, and he said to me, JD, been to some of my shows, so he knew what we did. He said, JD, I'm in deep shit. He said, I've got a 40-ton gorilla across the road. What do we do? I said, well, you can't win on price discounts, because if you say 10% or 20% off your wheelbarrows or whatever your hardware is, they're going to beat you within 2 seconds. That's part of their advertising.
Yeah.
Will beat any other by 10%. So I said, do this. So that's what he did. He actually says, spend $1,000 with me and you will get a free holiday. And he's been doing that now for 3 years. And he said to me, he even now sees that Bunnings staff, and he knows their staff from Bunnings, but they dress in casual clothing, come into his store to find out what the hell he's doing. But he's gone through countless. He's one of those clients from heaven, because he just reorders. I mean, we obviously look after him on the price, but he just reorders. And it's as simple as that. If you keep it simple, when I was at the Greater Building Society and the Seinfeld thing, I would be in meetings with bankers like, boy, wasn't that fun? And they'd say, oh, JD, what we'll do is that they'll get the free holiday if they jump through these hoops. Ding, ding, ding. I said, no. You go to McDonald's, you buy a Happy Meal, you get a toy, right? Stick to 9 words. Get a home loan and get a free holiday. That's it, right? And so therefore, in his instance, he took my advice. Just the KISS principle, spend $1,000 with me and you get a free holiday. And if you spend $2,000, guess what? You get 2 holidays. 3,000, you get 3 holidays. And that's the way it works. That's why, like, if you're Woolworths now and you get the Disney toy or whatever they're playing, because they've just copied McDonald's, I know because I used to work at Woolworths. So what they do is spend $30, you get a toy. Spend $60, you get 2 toys. Now, we're at the age group now, we've got little 2 and 3 and 5-year-old grandchildren. So my wife, who's married to this idiot that dreamed all this shit up, guess what? If she's going to spend $52, she spends $60 to get the second toy.
Of course.
So therefore, with this, if anyone runs it, we say to them, for goodness sake, if you're paying less than $50 a voucher for every, let's say, $1,000 they spend, give them another voucher, for God's sake. I mean, that means if you're spending less than $50 to give them something worth $1,000 and they spend multiple thousands of dollars, give them more of it.
Where else could this work? Because this is interesting. Have you seen it work for people that have like a membership or association to keep people in that membership?
Absolutely. In fact, yesterday, a Nutrimetics lady signed up yesterday, and
Yeah.
and MLMs, it's built for anything. The only people who I wouldn't sell it to, I had a client some years ago who rang me up just about 6 months ago, and he said, JD, I want to take the holiday program. I said, yeah, go on. It's a funeral business, a funeral parlour in Melbourne.
Okay.
I said, no, it's just not tasteful. You can't say, let me burn your relatives and I'll give you a free holiday. That's not nice, But every other business, and the reason that it works is 2 reasons. McDonald's, I know the people who came up with the Happy Meal toy. They live in Trump Tower now, right? And they're well into their 70s. But when they came up with the Happy Meal toy, they were school teachers, would you believe? They put the idea to McDonald's, and it took off and now it's around the world. They said to me the reason it worked is because the toy is produced in China for 22 cents. But if you see that toy that comes out of the Happy Meal box, it's worth about $5 in Kmart. So the secret to a good incentive is not a $50 dining voucher, because they know you've just valued them at $50. It's not a movie voucher for 2, because they know you've valued them at $50.
Yeah.
Where it works is when the cost is low, $50, but the perceived value is high,
Way
$1,000.
higher.
That's
Yeah.
what works. And so therefore, to answer your question, really, we haven't had any business that wouldn't work for it. And the reason is because vacations are universally appealing to all ages and both sexes. Whereas if I walk into a menswear store and I buy a sports jacket and they give me a skateboard, I will tell them they should go and see a psychiatrist. Like, that is a stupid thing. Okay. So therefore, it's what Mal Emery used to call, Dan Kennedy used to call message to market match. You've got to make sure that your incentive matches the market. In this instance, the beautiful thing with this matches a 20-year-old or an 80-year-old. Doesn't matter. Everyone wants to go on a free holiday.
Absolutely. This is absolutely brilliant. And yes, I can see it happening or working for most people. So I'm glad you brought this up on top of, if people want to connect with you direct. We're going to start to wrap up. And I want to ask you one more question. Because, gosh, we could probably talk for another 30 minutes on this question, I'm sure. But let's keep it concise. Let's leave people with one good, tangible takeaway from our conversation today. If you could give people one takeaway, what would that be?
Well, I guess I come back to where we started, Heather. I know it sounds easy to do that, but yeah, surround yourself with the right people. And that sounds self-serving. Oh, you're trying to get people to contact you, JD. No, I'm just saying that, try and surround yourself with people who do say why not, because they're I had a call this morning. A new product that we're launching within the next 2 or 3 weeks comes from a guy called Evan, who's been a dear friend of mine. He's a bit younger than me, probably late 40s, maybe he might just turn 50. And he used to be my techie guy behind the scenes. So I'm the sales guy that goes out and makes it happen. And then, I've got these other younger people behind me that, make it happen. And every time they tell me it can't, I say to them, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon 50 years ago. For goodness sake, surely you can do this, He contacted me about a month ago and he said, do you have Windows 10? And I said, yep. And he said, okay, you do know that that's coming to an end on October the 14th. I said, yep. And I said, I hate it. He says, so does 440 million other people, around the world. Okay, they don't want to upgrade to 11 because they're used to 10. But Microsoft, being Microsoft, are stopping all assistance on October the 14th. So your Windows 10, if you have a problem with it on the day after, you might as well throw it out and go and buy another $1,500 computer because you can't do anything. So we're launching a business called Sprint Central. And it will launch in 2 weeks' time, and it will be the only one in the world, the only system in the world whereby you don't have to upgrade to Windows 11. You can swap across to us for less than $100 a year, and you will have a system that runs 25 times faster than Windows 11, has all the security wrapped up. This guy's a genius, by the way. This guy used to work for government departments to stop the KGB getting into the websites here in Australia. So this guy's a genius. He's up there. But he realised, guess what, that this will go nowhere without marketing. And so I said to him, okay, there will be, so our whole thing on this is doomsday. So just like the Y2K scare, we will be marketing this that October 14th, the world comes to an end if you're on Windows 10. And if you don't want the world to come to an end, then just take our 14-day free trial because it's a freemium model, because there will be people saying, oh, okay, you're going to be better than Microsoft. I want to test that. They'll test it, and within an hour, they'll see how fast this thing is. I mean, he downloaded a PowerPoint presentation that was 242 slides, and 50 of those slides were video, so it was a very big PowerPoint. He pressed the button and showed me online. It downloaded in 3 seconds. This thing is insane, and he's a genius. But, of course, his ingenuity, he said to me, JD, my ingenuity is going to go nowhere if I can't market this. So it won't be hard for me to put him on the Today Show in America and Good Morning America and all that sort of stuff, because this is groundbreaking. And the only reason I bring that up and showing off about it is because, guess what? I hang around crazy people.
It's absolutely gold. Starving, huge, massive market with a built-in deadline. You couldn't even ask for anything better. For a
on the website, other website, we have the Grim Reaper and Doomsday with a countdown clock, and it's counting down right now to Doomsday, which is October the 14th. Yeah.
Brilliant. And you know what they say, like attracts like, right?
Yeah.
You like crazy people? Says something about you, JD.
But yeah, exactly. But wasn't it, it was a Jim Rohn, Heather, that said, if you are the average of the 5 people you hang around? Yeah.
My favorite quote, you're the average of 5 people you spend your most time with. Yeah, very important and quite valid. So thank you.
So most of the 5 people I hang with have all got ankle bracelets. They're crazy, but they've got ankle bracelets. I don't know what
Okay, I don't know about that one. That's probably a whole other chat. But thank you for being here and sharing your ideas and your little bit of crazy with the listeners, because, man, I feel like if people could just bottle your brain, just one idea from you, a massive shift for their business and their life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All the best.